Welcome to the Digital Intellect, bringing you the latest news from around the world tonight. A $3 billion crisis rocks the American dairy industry, one of the largest shocks the sector has faced in decades. Milk products meant for export have been abruptly rejected, leaving thousands of farmers in limbo and millions of gallons of milk with nowhere to go. This isn't just a number on a balance sheet, it's the livelihoods of families from Wisconsin to California, now facing economic uncertainty and sleepless nights as they wonder what tomorrow will bring. The global food market is a delicate web, and this disruption is sending shockwaves far beyond our borders, affecting trade partners and consumers worldwide. Nations that rely on U.S. dairy are scrambling for alternatives, driving up prices worldwide and exposing the fragility of our food systems. Shoppers are already noticing higher prices and fewer choices on store shelves. The crisis stems from a dispute over export standards, but its impact is deeply personal for American farmers, who now face mounting bills and tough decisions about their future. Imagine waking up to find your hard-earned product has no market. This is the harsh reality for many tonight, as milk is dumped and barns sit eerily quiet. The industry, already under pressure from rising costs and changing consumer habits, now faces a direct blow that could reshape its future for years to come. We'll explore the economic fallout, the political maneuvering behind the scenes, and the human stories at the heart of this storm, stories of resilience, loss, and hope. How did this happen, and what can be done to protect our farmers and food supply from future shocks? The answers are complex, but vital. Join us as we unpack the details, hear from those affected, and search for a path forward from this historic crisis that touches us all. To grasp today's crisis, we must look back at how U.S. milk exports became vital. For decades, American dairy was a local affair, but innovations like milk powder changed everything. Suddenly, U.S. dairy could reach consumers worldwide, opening new markets and opportunities. In the late 1990s, aggressive promotion and trade deals like NAFTA made exports a lifeline for farmers. Today, nearly 18% of U.S. milk is exported. One day's production each week leaves our shores. This global demand stabilizes prices and supports rural economies, making exports essential for survival. Mexico, Southeast Asia, and China became key partners, relying on American dairy for their food industries. These relationships, built over decades, are now at risk. The current crisis threatens to unravel this network, leaving both U.S. farmers and international buyers in jeopardy. For many, exports are no longer optional. They're the backbone of the business. The stakes have never been higher. The crisis erupted in July 2025, when a block of Southeast Asian and Middle Eastern buyers abruptly rejected $3 billion worth of U.S. dairy products, sending shockwaves through the global agricultural market. The massive shipment, consisting of milk powder, whey, cheese, and butter, was refused at the last minute over alleged failures to meet newly imposed import standards, leaving exporters stunned and scrambling for answers. Within just 72 hours, notifications of the rejection arrived, triggering a dramatic plunge in dairy futures and throwing global markets into chaos as traders rushed to assess the fallout. Importers cited concerns over product safety and traceability, but U.S. officials quickly pushed back, calling the move a thinly veiled trade barrier designed to protect local industries. The new standards were introduced with little warning, catching exporters completely off guard and fueling widespread suspicions of protectionism and unfair trade practices. Now, thousands of shipments are stranded at ports or being forced to return home, with mounting storage and shipping costs threatening to spiral out of control. The financial pain is immediate and severe. Cooperatives are warning farmers of sharply lower milk checks, looming production quotas, and the real possibility of layoffs. Some producers may be forced to sell at a loss or even dump unsold milk, a devastating outcome for an industry already operating on razor-thin margins and facing rising costs. The crisis has become a logistical nightmare, with losses now extending far beyond the value of the milk itself, impacting truckers, warehouse workers, and entire rural communities. For many farmers, it's a catastrophic blow that threatens not just their livelihoods but the future of their family farms and rural way of life. The entire supply chain from farm to port is now in turmoil, with uncertainty clouding every step and no clear resolution in sight. The fallout is just beginning, and the true cost of this crisis may not be known for months to come. The $3 billion rejection is a seismic blow to an industry supporting over 3 million jobs and $750 billion in economic output. Milk prices are collapsing as surplus floods the domestic market, with analysts predicting up to a 30% drop. thousands of farms could fall below their cost of production, triggering a ripple effect across rural economies. When farmers lose income, local businesses, from equipment dealers to feed suppliers, suffer too. Layoffs in processing, trucking, and marketing are likely deepening the economic pain. The social fabric of rural America is at risk, as multi-generational farms face foreclosure and bankruptcy. Mental health hotlines are seeing a surge in calls from stressed farm families. This crisis exposes the vulnerability of relying on exports, forcing a national debate on balancing domestic and foreign markets. The government faces pressure to deliver aid, but the cost could strain the national budget. The consequences of this trade dispute will echo for years. America's heartland is on the brink. The rejected shipment has ignited a political firestorm in Washington. Lawmakers from dairy states demand emergency hearings, relief packages, and a tough stance in trade talks. The White House faces a delicate balance: defend farmers without triggering a wider trade war. Diplomatic efforts are underway, but divisions run deep. Some push for retaliatory tariffs, others urge caution. The crisis has become a top issue for rural voters, with midterm elections looming. Political pressure is mounting, and the response could shape U.S. trade policy for years. The fate of America's dairy farmers now hinges on high-stakes diplomacy and partisan debate. Washington's next moves are critical. The U.S. milk rejection is sending shockwaves through the global food supply chain. Import-dependent nations in Asia and the Middle East scramble for alternatives, driving up demand and prices for dairy from New Zealand, Australia, and the EU. Global dairy prices are rising, hitting consumers and food manufacturers worldwide. This crisis exposes the risks of relying on a single supplier for essential food commodities. Governments are rethinking food security, seeking to diversify sources and boost domestic production. The dispute also erodes trust in the U.S. as a reliable supplier, introducing new political risks to global trade. Other countries may now hesitate to depend too heavily on any one partner. The result, a more fragmented, less efficient, and more volatile global food system. The long-term damage to trust may outlast the immediate crisis. The world is watching and recalibrating. To understand the crisis, we spoke with farmers like Sarah Miller in Wisconsin and John Davis in California. For them, exports aren't just business, they're survival. Sarah's family depends on stable prices to pay the mortgage and send kids to college. Now, everything is at risk. John's cooperative warns of price cuts so steep, his next milk check may not cover basic costs. Some farmers are considering selling off herds, decisions that can't be undone. There's a deep sense of frustration. We did everything right and now we're paying for a political fight we didn't cause. Many feel abandoned by both trading partners and leaders at home. Younger farmers are questioning their future in the industry. How can I tell my son to take over the farm now? Sarah asks. The fear isn't just about money, it's about losing a way of life and the next generation of American farmers. If this crisis drives them out, it could mark the end of family dairy farming. The uncertainty is overwhelming. To help us understand the complex road ahead, we turn to Dr. Evelyn Reed, a leading agricultural economist whose expertise sheds light on the challenges and opportunities facing the dairy industry in this turbulent moment. Dr. Reed describes the recent rejection of U.S. dairy shipments as a textbook example of protectionism, a move that's less about genuine safety concerns and more about restricting American access to key international markets. She emphasizes that the United States must respond strategically, challenging these barriers at the World Trade Organization. This means relying on solid evidence and international law, rather than simply flexing economic power or resorting to threats. While retaliatory tariffs might seem tempting, Dr. Reed warns they could easily backfire, hurting American producers. Instead, she advocates for building strong alliances with other major dairy exporters, presenting a united front to push for fair trade. On the home front, targeted government support is crucial. Direct financial aid, emergency relief, and government dairy purchases can help stabilize farms and prevent a wave of bankruptcies that would devastate rural communities. This crisis also presents a unique opportunity to address food insecurity in the U.S. By redirecting surplus milk to school lunch programs and food banks, we can support both struggling families and dairy producers. Looking ahead, the industry must focus on diversifying export markets and investing in higher-value dairy products, like specialty cheeses and innovative dairy ingredients, that are less vulnerable to global commodity price swings. Over-reliance on any single region or trading partner is a strategic risk that can leave the industry exposed to sudden shocks and policy changes. To reduce this risk, Dr. Reed urges the U.S. Dairy Export Council to expand its efforts in emerging markets, especially in Africa and South America, where demand for dairy is growing rapidly. Embracing innovation and building resilience, through new technology, sustainable practices, and adaptive business models, will be essential for weathering future disruptions. This moment is undeniably painful, but it's also a powerful catalyst for strategic change and long-term growth. Moving forward, the industry will need vision, unity, and adaptability to navigate an increasingly complex global landscape. The future of American dairy depends on the choices we make today, and on our collective determination to build a stronger, more resilient industry for tomorrow. The $3 billion milk rejection is a defining moment for American agriculture. It's exposed vulnerabilities in our food supply and shaken the backbone of rural America. The path forward demands swift action, direct aid, smart diplomacy, and a long-term vision for resilience. This isn't a partisan issue, it's about the future of our communities and food security. As consumers, we can help by choosing American dairy and supporting our farmers. The American farmer has always faced adversity with grit and innovation. This crisis is one of the toughest yet, but together we can help them endure. Our task is to stand with them and ensure the future of American dairy remains strong. The sun will rise again over our farms. Let's make sure they're still there to see it. The story of American dairy is far from over,